Hello again, Guardians, and welcome back to the channel for another Destiny episode. Before we get started, I'd like to first announce I'm giving away 1,000 silver for Destiny or a Destiny emblem away from the Bungie store. All you have to do to enter and to win for this week's giveaway is be subscribed, show your support and like the video, and leave a comment down below in reference to Destiny 2. Alongside all of this though, I'm giving away 3 copies of Destiny. 2 normal copies for any system including PC, or a Destiny 2 the Collector's Edition, also available on any system or PC. So if you want to enter in for any of this, please check the video link down in the description of this video to learn how to enter in for any of those giveaways. Alongside that, enjoy the video. Hello privileged ones and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a really awesome video for you, and it's the start of a new series. It's going to be the prop making series. I'm creating a brand new prop shop. I'm going to be making stuff from Destiny, from Halo, from any game out on the market to Diablo, all the way to Overwatch. And if you guys want me to make a gun specifically, then you can actually tell me that through the polls on my Patreon. I actually decided to make a Patreon, so if you want to support me there and help me develop more content, because YouTube at the moment is quite lacking in the revenue spectrum. So there's a lot of YouTubers out there that are struggling, and if you want to support me there, then it's greatly appreciated. I'll have a link down below. Today is going to be the first series episode to a series I'm going to be creating, which I'll be making guns on this channel, and armor, and cosplays, and I'll be going to conventions and showing them off. But in this series today, we're starting the first episode to Outbreak Prime. Now, I'm working with Dax on this project, and Dax is one of my friends. He's a 3D modeler and 3D printer, and he's actually really good at what he does. So, printing in 3D models and printing on his 3D printer is quite time-consuming and very tedious. And I wanted to go into the process with you and break it down, talk a little bit about the plastic he used in creating this model that you see before you on the desk. And we'll also take a closer look at a lot of the parts. So getting into this, how to make an Outbreak Prime Part 1. It all starts with Dax, his 3D models, and taking it over to his 3D printer. So we're going to go over all that today. So let's move over to the computer and take a closer look. So inside of the computer, you're going to see a simple image of the Outbreak Prime. Now from the Outbreak Prime, he took that image, and he also took this one, and he also took this one, and a couple shots from in-game from his Guardian holding the Outbreak Prime. And from there, he took it into a program like Fusion 360. Now, I use Fusion 360 from Autodesk. I'm not too sure what the program is that Dax is running right now, but Fusion 360 is actually free for students and for people that are running it for their work. So if you're using it for work, or if you're a student, you can actually get the program for free. And from there, if you do get Fusion 360, you then can start designing these awesome 3D models. Now, this is the first portion of the barrel design that he ended up sending me, and from there it progressed on to having the hand grip and the trigger. From there, he ended up progressing on to the backstock a little bit, and still the magazine is missing, but that's where he finalized the piece, and it looked absolutely gorgeous on just the 3D model that he created. And I was really excited because I was waiting for this to be sent to me so I could start working on the final production of this model, getting it there for manufacturing purposes and actually getting the model sanded down, primed, painted, and out there for a model that I could actually wear or hold at a cosplay. And so from there, there's a couple of the pieces that ended up getting printed, the very first set of pieces that were printed. From there, we also have the finalized 3D model in different angles that he ended up using and cutting into different parts. From there, we also had this here for the close-up of the barrel and all the intricate pieces of work that he had to actually detail in the model, because simply you can't just do the 3D model on the barrel and leave it at that. There's a lot of hollowed out parts that can't really print very well on the 3D printer, so what you have to do is you have to separate all those components, and that's something that you have to work around and get used to. But once you get used to it, you'll actually do pretty good. From there, he ended up doing the grip, so that's what the grip looked like when it was first printed. and then all the other parts. There was a ton of parts. There's about 92 parts, I believe, to this Outbreak Prime. And those are all the parts there, with a couple of them missing. But that is pretty much the entire Outbreak Prime model on the desk. So Guardians, there's a lot of stuff to go over right now. We've got all the parts in front of us from Dax's workshop right before we get to the second phase, where I start sanding and priming and bondo and sanding more. And I mean, it's going to take a lot of sanding, but basically here's a portion of the barrel. It's cut into several pieces to make it easy for the 3D printer to print. And it's very important to know that long pieces of a barrel to a gun is important to split it up into pieces like this, so that way it's on the print deck like that and it's printing. And we'll actually show you what it looks like when a 3D printer is printing. We'll show you that right now. So are you guys ready? Time lapse. Okay guys, so with that time lapse, that gives you a rough idea of what pieces look like when they're 3D printing. This stuff was printed in ABS plastic, which prints very nicely in a 3D printer. I can go over all the printing specs in the next video of what Dax used, but basically here's the back of the magazine. Here's the magazine itself. We printed this separately instead of printing it in one big piece, due to the fact that if we printed it with the magazine, it was going to be much taller in the 3D printer. But then again, if we also printed this separately, we can actually drill out a little bit of the plastic here, put magnets in here, put magnets in here, and we can actually get the magazine to just clip together. And it works really nicely for cosplay. For the grip, most of the gun was divided into two halves, which made it really easy for the printer to get all the detail. And what we do is we will sand down the back halves of these, and we'll sand down the rest of it as well to make it really nice looking. But we'll take an epoxy, we'll bind these together, and then where the seam is, we'll actually use Bondo, fill this up, sand it down, prime it with some auto paint, and then from there we'll sand it down some more, and it will make a final piece that we can use for the actual model. But it's really nicely done. Dax, again, did a really good job. He also printed a couple of the pieces to distinguish those pieces in red ABS, which this is actually the little barrel tip. And on the gun, looks something like this. So, really cool. Then from there, we also have a bigger portion of the barrel. We have the foregrip that you would actually hold when you're holding the Outbreak, so it's going to look something like this. And it's actually about that big. It's a huge gun. This model is really big, and he even scaled it down for us as human beings to hold it properly. So in the game, the actual model in the game is much larger. This is going to be the scope. Really nicely done. And we have a bunch of pieces in here that he ended up modeling as well. These are the tumors, or the SIVA nodes, that are on the Outbreak Prime. And we've also got the face plates to the Outbreak Prime. This is one of the back pieces of the gun. So basically, how this fits together is it's actually not that bad. It actually fits together really nicely. So what you're going to want to do is these two halves of the back stock. This is the part that fits right up into your arm. Right here is going to basically be these two parts here going together, with the magazine part going together right in there, just like that. Then from there, we've got this piece that actually fits right here. And then from there, we start expanding out that gun with all of these parts. So we'll actually glue these parts together. The next piece that actually goes on is right here. And we just keep adding. And the actual grip will go about right there. And that is the back half of the Outbreak Prime. So again, a lot of work to be had with this model. The first thing to doing any prop like this is to have a 3D printer. You're going to want to go in and design those parts, do a little bit of design work, practice drawing in a 3D design concept. Drawing in 3D concepts is much different than drawing on paper, and much different than drawing in Photoshop, but there's also some similarities, so it's not going to be too difficult if you know how to use Photoshop to transfer it over to, say, Fusion 360. I'll leave a link down below for Fusion 360 so you guys can go and download it if you don't have it. Fusion 360 is my favorite program to use. Other than that, printing all of these parts, just whatever gun you are printing, make sure that you have an idea of what the parts are going to look like. Draw up the image, separate all the parts as you can see on the screen, and from there it's really easy to get them printed. Tune down your settings on your printer, dial them down to how you want your printer to print them, get them all printed, and then it's on to the second step. Once all of your parts are printed, that's where the work comes in. And again, we'll get to that in episode 2. Thank you all so much for watching part 1 of how to build the Outbreak Prime. We're going to show you how to put these parts together very soon, so stay tuned for episode 2. Also, perfect time to subscribe if you aren't already. We're going to be doing a lot of projects like this on the channel now. I'm not going to be doing just gaming content. I'm actually going to also be doing prop making. Here's another prop that we'll be working on, which is a 3D printed hunter knife, which is something I'll be going over in a later episode. This is going to be a smaller project, but it's something that's going to be really interesting for you all to actually enjoy. So if you want to stay tuned for that episode, make sure you stay tuned. This is actually 3 pieces, guys. So this hunter knife is 3 different pieces. Thank you all so much again. If you are a part of my Patreon, you will actually get the files to this Outbreak Prime for free to download. So go and check out my Patreon down below. That's any tier. You can actually get the files for free. Otherwise, I will actually be selling the files on a store later, so stay tuned for that. But my Patreon members always get the files first. Congratulations, guys. Thank you all so much for helping out my channel. Subscribe again today if you haven't already. And as always, stay violent and be privileged.
Oh, hi. VPG isn't here right now, but I guess you enjoyed the content. So over there's the logo you can click on. That will allow you to subscribe. More content up there, and behind the scenes daily content over here on the vlog channel. There you go. Enjoy.